Hello and welcome to the Guardian Football Weekly, and shame on Bayern and PSG for not giving us what we wanted. Another 5-4 at the very least. We had to settle for 1-1, and really PSG won it in the third minute. Kvaratskhelia set free down the left and was given too much time to pick out Ousmane Dembele. Arsenal fans don't have to worry then about Harry Kane winning the Champions League in front of them, and PSG deserved it. Manuel Neuer was the busier of the two keepers, and so Arteta and the Gunners must face the holders in Budapest. Also today we'll look ahead to the Villa Forest Europa semi-final and the Premier League weekend. City host Brentford before Arsenal go to West Ham, who need points in the relegation fight with Spurs. Then there's the playoffs that get underway. More Roy Hodgson in the wild, your questions, and that's today's Guardian Football Weekly. On the panel today, Barry Glendenning, welcome.
Hi, Max.
Hello, Archie Rhind-Tutt.
I used to have a photo with Roy Hodgson in the wild. It was my proudest possession when he was Fulham manager. Hello, Max.
All right. Did you burn it? Why do you not still have it?
Times change.
Yeah, okay. Fine. Yeah, okay. Chuck away your stuff. It's a good way to live.
No, I've not chucked it away, but it's just,
like the littlest
not
hobo
as prominent.
Or Jack Reacher. It's just once it's done.
It was in Basel when Fulham were playing there during the Europa League. So how wild it was. It's not nearly as wild as the stuff you've had. I'll put it that way.
No, fair enough. From the Racing Post, Mark Langdon, hello.
Hey, Max. No Hodgson anecdotes, I'm afraid.
You are forgiven, Mark. Let's start then at the Allianz. Bayern 1, PSG 1. PS going through to the Champions League final 6-5 on aggregate. They'll play Arsenal. What did you make of this, Mark?
Yeah, I think this is maybe the game that Jonathan Wilson wanted to watch last week, where Paris Saint-Germain showed sort of more facets of the play, really, and were able to defend and stifle Bayern Munich as much as it's possible to do that to a team that's got, three brilliant attacking players like they have. Showed real discipline. The early goal always helps because it settled them down and gave them that lead to sort of hold on to. But they felt sort of reasonably comfortable, and all defence played well, midfield played well. They were dangerous on the counter-attack and deserved to go through, I felt, over the course of the two legs.
Yeah, I think that's right, Archie, isn't it? They did defend. Marquinhos and Pacho were brilliant.
Even if there were only 2 goals in this, I still felt there were glorified five-a-side vibes in the intensity of the game and the way it zipped back and forth. And yeah, the way that Marquinhos and Pacho defended, as you said, was really impressive. And I think that's the best any team has defended their box against Bayern this season. And from a Bayern perspective, the thing that everyone here is going back to is, why was Nuno Mendes not sent off by João Pinheiro in the first half? It did seem like a red card, but obviously you can't review second yellows with VAR. But
hadn't Lima got done for a handball that wasn't necessarily a handball just before it? Isn't that he'd already blown for that?
Yes, and the way that was explained as well seemed puzzling, in that it was a decision which was given by the fourth official 5 seconds after it happened.
Right, okay.
And it didn't happen. But look, ultimately, I think there's a few turning points, sliding doors moments where you see Bayern didn't quite take the initiative. And I'd go back even to the first leg where Michael Elise has that chance to make it 2-0. And I think that is ultimately the point where you really go, if PSG were chasing the game that hard, that would have made a difference. But the truth is, for the majority of this tie, PSG still had it in their own hands. And Bayern just weren't sharp enough with their passing and with their general cleanliness of all their actions last night, I thought. So the fact as well that Manuel Neuer had a great game last night. The first saves he has to make in this tie come after he's conceded 6 goals in it.
Yeah.
That's
was the
insane.
first one that Neves header? Because that is a brilliant save, isn't it? I don't know if that's his first save. It's an unbelievable save. And I think Wilson, it's not just let's get Wilson, but I think he wrote Neuer off last week. So, if Manuel Neuer's a listener.
But there were none of the 5 goals last week where you'd go, oh, what's he done there?
Yeah. No, I agree. Baz, I suppose, when that first goal goes in after 3 minutes, there was a little part of you goes, okay, we're back on. And that was similar of the kind of football that we'd seen in the first leg, that especially that sort of 1-2 between Kvaratskhelia and Fabian Ruiz.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's just how the game began or if it was a deliberate tactic by PSG to roar out of the traps, try and get an early goal, and then shut up shop insofar as PSG ever shut up shop at the back. But if it was a tactic, it certainly worked. They tore into Bayern Munich, got that early goal. Kvaratskhelia is such a difficult player to mark, and he's going to give, I suspect, Mikel Arteta and his staff a few sleepless nights between now and the final, wondering how to try to contain him if he can be contained. But yeah, once they got that goal, they had a 2-goal lead, and they were able to concentrate on keeping Bayern Munich out. I mean, for all that it wasn't another 5-4, there were a lot of chances for both sides. Elise had a couple of chances. Musiala, Jonathan Tah, Luis Diaz all had chances for Bayern Munich. Harry Kane obviously scored for them late doors. And PSG had 5 or 6 chances. So, it was a very entertaining, reasonably end-to-end game. I think PSG were probably worthy winners, but ultimately, Bayern were diddled by that first leg penalty awarded for an Alphonse Davies handball that shouldn't have been given.
I mean, you don't need to start me, Barry, but I suppose that's an interesting way, isn't it, when you watch a game, Mark? Because Barry's right. There were lots of chances. Elise puts that one just over the bar. There's the brilliant save from the Neves header from Neuer. There's was it Nuno Mendes' tackle on Elise, which is a brilliant last-ditch tackle. So I'm watching this game thinking this game isn't as good as last week. Like the midfield, the passing, the attacking just isn't as crisp. Was it the same, just the finishing wasn't there? Or was it not as good, or goals are an important part of a game being good?
Yeah, I think as already been alluded to, like the goalkeepers barely made a save last week. And so from a sort of shot creation sort of point of view, it did feel like there were maybe as many chances. They just, they all went in last week and they didn't this time around. I don't think you need to have loads of goals, though, for it to be a great and exciting game. I'd love Bayern to have scored 15 minutes earlier just to have really set up that sort of, grandstand finish. But, I still enjoyed the game. It's a semi-final. Like, I mean, last week, we can't expect all semi-finals to be, 5-4 shootouts. I mean, most of them would follow what happened last night. I just felt it was really interesting the way that PSG were happy to concede possession to Bayern and actually didn't, in the second half particularly, were not interested in risking sort of playing in their own half and were very direct and sort of in that last 25 minutes, to the point where the goalkeeper was I don't know if it was a tactic to keep aiming for the touchline, but it felt very much like he was told, do not sort of pass it short, do not risk. We're just going to sort of give the ball to Bayern and defend the box. Probably the least amount I've seen Nuno Mendes, and I know it was Zaire-Emery rather than Hakimi, go forward. But to me, that just makes total sense. When Elise and Luis Diaz are on the wings, like just vacating those positions like they did in the first leg, just seemed nonsensical to me. So I just felt PSG were much more sensible in this second game, and that maybe spoiled it from in terms of just how many goals there could be, and even the substitutions that Luis Enrique made were probably about as negative as he ever sort of goes, really. So that was respect to Bayern and the threat that they've got, but I don't know if Archie agrees, he watches more of Bayern, but I do feel like Bayern are they're a one-trick pony. I think they're a very good one-trick pony, but I don't know, like, Kane wasn't able to drop deeper and sort of link up the play like he maybe would, because PSG just put their midfield in those positions, and I just felt like they maybe ran out of ideas slightly in that sort of second half.
I would say Bayern are a multi-trick pony. It's just that PSG took away those tricks. The fact that Bayern have scored, I think, in all competitions around 30 goals from set pieces this season, and there was one point where it flashed up saying Bayern no corners so far tonight, and I thought that's important in this game. What you mentioned there about Kane not being able to come deep. And one of the things, actually, when these two teams played against each other in the league phase, is that Bayern rotated a lot more when it came to their positions on the pitch. And actually, Bayern blew away PSG in the first half. That's probably their best half that they've played this season. And they were 2-0 up, and Luis Diaz then got sent off, and then they had to really, defend for their lives. And I think that ultimately, I think they won the wrong game this season. They've been so emboldened by how they've played throughout this season that they have this belief that they can take on anybody. It's just that I think that PSG's best players and Bayern's best players, there is just a tiny difference in them knowing exactly what they have to do. And just in terms of quality, I think that Kvaratskhelia is a little level above Musiala, Elise, Diaz, in the same way that I think Dembele is also on that level above. And that's ultimately what's made the difference, is that efficiency of chance taking.
Yeah, you make such a good point, Baz, about Kvaratskhelia, because it's the close control. Like, do you get close? Do you back off? What the hell do you do? And if you're thinking ahead to Arsenal, it could be Ben White, who actually played pretty well against Atleti, but isn't, the best part of that Arsenal team.
One presumes it'll be Ben White or Jurrien Timber if fit. I think, with all due respect to Ben White, I'd go Jurrien Timber, but then do you put in an extra defensive midfielder to help whoever is playing at right back? Because Kvaratskhelia is virtually unmanageable in a one-on-one, and even when he's double teamed, it's still hard to contain him. And even if you can manage to contain him, there's so many, you're leaving spaces elsewhere. I mean, yeah, I'd love to be a fly on the wall in the Arsenal coaching staff room when they're trying to figure out what to do. PSG are beatable, we know that. They're. I think it's fair to say they're probably the best team on the planet on their day, and Arsenal are a really good defensive team. So I'm really looking forward to this final, and I will happily excuse Mikel Arteta for wearing belt, braces, another belt, and another pair of braces, just in case for this one. It's going to be intriguing.
Who needs a number 9 when you've got 3 players with the dribbling ability across the front 3 that they have? And also, they do 1-2s quicker than I've seen any team in history do them. It's like, and I think that's the thing watching them, is that they do the simplest things at the highest intensity, that also I think must be pretty galling for the teams that they're playing against, because these are very simple moves, and yet they do them so well that it feels like it's impossible to stop. I'm not saying what Kvaratskhelia does is very simple. That's obviously not. But the way that they're able to just, pull coins from behind your ear on such a consistent basis as a defender, and just your morale is dropped through a game. Like, given how much Arsenal enjoy defending and the art of that, I think that this is a fascinating final because of the tests and the challenges that they will be posed with. Arsenal will not be as shy about defending as say Bayern were, as say Bayern would have been, and wanting to kind of continually go on and score one more. And just a word on Bayern, it's weird that they are. I've never seen them be as comfortable with losing a semi-final, even if they're really disappointed with it, because of the journey that they seem on. Joshua Kimmich usually feels like he's about to go through an existential crisis after he loses an important game of football. And the fact that he came out and said, this is the best Bayern season that I've played in 11 years at the club, And there's a chance that they also may only win one trophy this season. Despite all of this, they've still got the German Cup final to come against Stuttgart. But I think it speaks for the journey and what Vincent Kompany has done at the club.
I think just looking at the goal that PSG scored, I think that's harder to score against Arsenal. Kvaratskhelia had a lot of space to run into. It was a great 1-2 with Fabian Ruiz, but like Arsenal will have unashamedly be sort of 15 yards further back in those moments, and like I think that's the right thing to do. You wouldn't want to give PSG that amount of space. I think Arsenal can take great heart from last season's semi-final. I know Mikel Arteta got mocked afterwards for saying we were the better team, and even Luis Enrique agreed, and then Luis Enrique didn't agree in the press conference afterwards. And but I felt Arsenal, particularly in the second leg in Paris, gave a very good performance. At that point, PSG were ahead, and so you do have to factor in sort of the state of the game. But they caused them problems throughout that match, and like the set pieces, there is a clear advantage for Arsenal. Bayern scored one goal from a set piece in this game. Maybe Jonathan Tah could have had another one in the second leg as well. So Arsenal will have to defend really well, but they have got opportunities to hurt Paris. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and producer Ty is saying Donnarumma was incredible in that game, and he doesn't play for PSG anymore. And actually, Barney tweeted, PSG have no weaknesses, only strengths and perfect high-spec parts, except perhaps for the goalkeeper, who seems to have wandered in from a rave in Kent in 1989. And I don't know if that's it. Is that long hair, is Barry? Because I actually think Safanov played pretty well yesterday. He doesn't fill you with confidence. And I don't know if that's just having long hair as a keeper, because it's sort of rare.
He's probably the weakest link in the team. I don't think it's anything to do with the length of his hair. And it was a rather unorthodox flap/save from him that led to the handball that Bayern Munich's players thought should have led to a penalty for them, but because a PSG player hit it off his teammate's outstretched arm, it wasn't given correctly, because that is the law, of which I think quite a few of the players on the pitch from both teams didn't seem to realise. But yeah, I'd say Arsenal will fancy the chances of getting a goal or two at set pieces or corners. In the final, they will have to obviously get corners to score from them.
On that handball thing, Archie, and it's obvious where I'm going to come from with this, which is
which handball, please?
Oh, not the Nuno Mendes, the João Neves one, right?
Okay, yeah.
Because it seems insane to me that IFAB have realised that if somebody kicks the ball really hard near you and it hits you on the arm, even if it's outstretched, it shouldn't be a penalty. But obviously, at the same time, if somebody hits your arm and it's even a tiny bit outstretched at point-blank range, then it is a penalty. It makes my blood boil that they've sort of accepted that this is a rule, because there's no massive difference. I know the ball's going the wrong way, but apart from that, is there a massive difference? Good, this isn't a penalty. Do that more.
If the people who are playing the sport and therefore are having supposedly the most briefings about what the rules are at the start of every season, if they don't know that that's the rule, then we're in a worrying place. The joy of football is that it's simple. And that's what I think is so frustrating about top level football nowadays, is that throughout the season, we're learning new rules. And it's May, and no one really knew this, and we all had to kind of look it up and find that out. And it's just really tiring, because we want to talk about the football and instead we find ourselves talking about referees. And yeah, I support you in your quest, Max.
Thank you so much. Join us, everyone. We will march on IFAB. Follow me. Barry, you were doing your Harry Kane big game bottle of routine in the WhatsApp group before he scored. Does that make a difference that he scored?
Look, Harry Kane is a fine footballer. He's one of the best strikers in the world. Blah, 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 blah. But there is a worrying pattern where he fails to grab big games, semi-finals, finals by the scruff and bend them to his will. That's an undeniable fact. But he's clearly a very good player. He scored over 50 goals this season. He scored and played brilliantly in the first leg. He was anonymous last night until he scored. And I wish he'd scored, like Mark said, 10, 15 minutes earlier, and then we'd have had a right ding-dong of a finish.
Someone should comp together all of the times you've said. Now,
well, you keep teeing me up for it, and then what am I supposed to say?
Sorry, you started it. You were in the. I didn't say anything. It was in the WhatsApp group. It became part of acceptable discussion points from you. Anyway, Archie, you were going to make an interesting point on this, perhaps.
I would like to defend Harry Kane. I think that this is a point that could have been made in the past, but not this season. Not this season at all. Because he scored in each of the quarterfinals against Real Madrid, and he scored in each of the games against PSG, and only one of them was a penalty. And still, to stick away a penalty is a skill in itself, as we've seen in football. And I think that last night it lays more on the shoulders of that. There were other teammates of his that had bigger chances where they could have scored in Elise and Musiala and even Diaz taking the right decision at the right point. And when his chance comes along, he takes it in a really impressive way. And also, let's not forget, if we look at Bayern's route to the final, or what it would have been, to score home and away against Real Madrid in those pressure moments is a sign of is what we would attribute a big game player doing. And scoring against PSG in both games as well. I think this time he deserves a little bit of slack.
Mark, I don't need to ask you about this. I should move on, which is, I guess, we have talked about the final a bit, but how do you see it playing? Is it as simple as attack versus defence or not?
I mean, it could be. I think if kind of both teams play the way you expect, but sometimes that doesn't happen. For instance, like Manchester City didn't go and press Arsenal in the Carabao Cup final and just let them have the ball for large spells and just waited for their moments. Luis Enrique might have watched that and thought, oh, actually, that's not a bad tactic, and we'll be patient and just expect to score at some stage in the game. I would be very surprised if Arsenal played any differently, but they're up against a world-class team, the champions in Europe with threats everywhere. So I think they have to play that way. They have to play cautiously and wait for their moments. So I'll make PSG favourites. I think if they both play to their levels, I think PSG will win, but football's rarely that simple.
Yeah, and I think it obviously makes a big difference, Baz, if Arsenal go into that game holding a Premier League trophy, and they should be.
I'm not sure it does make a difference, really.
Do you know? I think because then it becomes much more of a free hit. It's not a free hit because they've never won a European Cup, but if they go there and they haven't won the Premier League, the pressure on them is mad. Can you imagine the discussion of, the amount of that man with his bottle at Man City and all this bullshit, like that the whole narrative will be different to, you've got this medal, it's time to basically have the best season that Arsenal have ever had in their history.
Yeah, but okay, that's fair enough. They would go into it with a massive monkey off their back, but I don't think it would alter their approach to the game. They'd just be playing with more of a spring in their step, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone was expecting Arsenal to win the Champions League at the start of the season. So the fact they're in the final, they're up against such a good team. But it's winnable. It is winnable.
Can I think this is a win for me over Barry in the league phase doesn't matter that we.
I was just thinking this yesterday.
The Barry beef started a while ago.
I would say it's a 1-1 on aggregate, and we go again next season.
Yeah. But Arsenal won the league and deserved to win the league, given that they took it seriously and took advantage of I think it was a favourable league phase fixture list, but did what they had to do, and their path to the final compared to PSG's has been quite different. So I'd say it does matter.
But if they do lose the final, then it'll be 2-0 to me on aggregate.
Well, I think Arsenal, you look at... I think Bayern Munich did very well in the
league. It'll be 2-0 to me in aggregate in a best of 3, so I'll have won.
I'm sorry, but Bayern Munich also did well in the league phase and end up with a hard draw. But I just think overall, you've got to give yourself the best possible opportunity, and that's what Arsenal have done, and they've taken advantage of that.
Well,
Archie?
That's what I was going to say. Surely, actually, Arsenal's route to the final has shown that the league phase does matter.
Oh, yeah,
that's what Mark was saying.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Really glad I was there. Great. Cool.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, it'd be good if you listened to every episode, Archie. That's what I'm thinking.
I listen to every episode, and that makes it worse.
I also remember, Barry, Mark is living with us for, 10 days at the World Cup or something. So, let's keep him on side for now. Anyway, while we're on Arsenal, their women drew at Brighton last night, which means Man City are the WSL champions. Listen to the Guardian Women's Football Weekly because it's excellent. And that'll do for part 1. Part 2, we'll look ahead to the Europa semi-final, do a Premier League preview as well. Welcome to part 2 of the Guardian Football Weekly. Solik, it's Villa Forest in the Europa League semi-final tonight. Clearly, a lot of you will know that result by the time you listen to this podcast. But it is, Baz, fascinatingly poised. Villa are better, but Forest have all the momentum. They've won their last 5, haven't lost in 10, and Villa have lost their last 3, including the first leg.
Yeah, and Forest go into this game on the back of that big win over Chelsea at the weekend, in which they will have a completely different team, one imagines, but spirits will be high in the camp. It is really well poised. Villa obviously stank the place out at the weekend with their B team, but again, there'll be changes all around. At the time of talking, I don't know if Morgan Gibbs-White, I think he's going to play because he didn't suffer a concussion. He just suffered a quite deep cut on his head. So one presumes he'll be fine. And I think if he'd been out, that would have massively swung the game in Villa's favour. But yeah, I can't really pick a winner, to be honest. I'd probably go Villa, but not with any confidence.
It's interesting that if you're not concussed, but half your head has fallen off, you can still play. But yeah, he's had a protective mask fitted. So, he'll be the Zorro of the team. How do you see it, Mark?
Very tight match. The league table would suggest Aston Villa are way better than Nottingham Forest. I think Forest clearly had, when you're on your 4th manager of the season, then there's been issues earlier on in the campaign. But in more recent times, they've played so well. And so I think I wouldn't judge Forest as being this kind of team that's been battling against relegation. But, this current team, if the season started now, I think would be comfortably in mid-table and not that far off of Aston Villa. So I think Villa have got it all on to get past Forest. I mean, it's a really tight game. I'd just about rather have the lead rather than home advantage.
The winner meets either Freiburg or Braga. Braga are 2-1 up. Freiburg, lovely place for a mini break. I may have said that before, Archie. But are they good, or do you expect Braga to go through?
I still love the fact that 39-year-old João Moutinho is pulling the midfield strings for Braga. I watched the first leg of this last week, and I think a draw would have been fair, but fair play to Braga for the way that they stole it at the end. And Freiburg are the best they've ever been, and yet it still doesn't feel like it's quite enough. It's amazing that they're in a European semi-final at all, given the resources at their disposal compared to the likes of Villa and Forest, for example. And it's okay. One guy you have to watch out for, Johan Manzambi. That is a name you will hear in the future. He and even at the World Cup as well. For Switzerland, he plays generally out wide. For Freiburg, he plays as a holding midfielder or as a central midfielder. To be honest, he plays everywhere. And this guy does not run with the ball; he dances with the ball. It is he is a real difference maker for them. It's a big blow for them that they've lost Yuito Suzuki, who fractured his collarbone at the weekend. Suzuki and Manzambi are the two players who really make Freiburg tick. Freiburg have won their last 10 Europa League home games, stretching back over the last 2 seasons. So there's still an expectation that they win tonight, but it's a good story whoever does get to the final. From an English perspective, if it's Forest who win, then the end of the season in England becomes just that little bit less interesting for a batch of teams behind the top 5.
Yeah, and actually on that, I was going to do this when we were talking about Brentford. There is our very occasional FSA rivals, the Football Ramble, noticed this, which is Liverpool play Brentford on the final day, right? So Brentford go to Liverpool on the final day. Now, if Brentford are 6th and they can't be caught, so they are definitely 6th, and Liverpool and Villa are still vying for 4th, 5th, Brentford need to lose to Liverpool to get Champions League football, which is absolutely sensational, isn't it? Because, you know, what do you do? Do you just sit down? Is there an integrity thing somewhere? How do you subtly lose? Because it would just be that would be definitely in their interest to lose a football match, which is totally fascinating. Palace play Shakhtar tonight. They're 3-1 up. Some good quotes from Glasner. It could be his 4th consecutive final in 4 seasons if Palace make it there. He said, the fans have tasted honey. Now they want more. They won't be happy with just avocados. And then he said, he quoted Tony Polster when asked if he wanted a statue built at Selhurst Park. He said, I don't want a statue. Birds shit on a statue. Good luck to Palace. Then to the Premier League. Baz, the title race. Man City home to Brentford Saturday 5:30, and then Arsenal go to West Ham on Sunday at 4:30. And it is pretty simple, isn't it? City have to win. They do not have an amazing record against Brentford. Brentford did the double over them in 22-23, but have only managed to draw in their last 6. So look, it's not brilliant. They have beaten them.
City, I'm going to sound like I'm talking about Harry Kane again. City are an undeniably good team, but they have this habit of ceding control of matches to opposition when they look on top. And then, as we saw, when they did it against Everton, they conceded 3 goals and found themselves in all sorts of bother. Brentford have plenty to play for because they won't be trying to lose this one. And I could envisage them giving City plenty of problems. As for West Ham Arsenal, I can't see anything other than Arsenal win, but I suppose West Ham have to hope they've got a bit of a Champions League semi-final hangover, maybe start with intensity and try and get at Arsenal right from the start while they're a bit leggy, and they'll need big performance from Jared Bowen, I suppose, but I can't see West Ham winning this game.
Can you, Mark? I mean, as a Spurs fan, you can, obviously, can't you?
Yeah, I mean, it would be the one time settle for Arsenal winning a sort of virtual title decider. Might be the time they don't. This is not sort of with the Tottenham hat on. I feel like this is a more sort of a trickier game maybe than what Barry's suggesting there. I see it as being similar to the one that Everton and Man City played out, where there will be moments in the game where I think West Ham will have to ride their luck, but then have also, got some opportunities to hurt Arsenal. Like the London Stadium has been better in sort of recent months. This feels like a game where West Ham will need something from as well. Even a point might not be a bad result. So I think it's a hard enough game for Arsenal. You'd expect them to win, but of the 3 remaining matches, this is the one by far where they're most likely to slip up.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if they rest anyone. Or, Barry's sort of one-man campaign to get Christian Norgard just one game of football. Probably won't happen, will it? They probably start Zubimendi or Lewis Skelly. I mean, I guess because it is their toughest game, and now they don't have that many games. There's every chance they just go.
Yeah, and they don't play again until the following Monday against Burnley. I'd be amazed if Arteta rotated. This feels like the title winning opportunity, really.
Yeah. There is a rumour. This may be nonsense, and if so, it can be cut. There's a rumour that Palace gets some money from the Eze deal if Arsenal win the league. And Palace play Arsenal on the last game. Maybe, it could be absolute bullshit. I've no idea.
Conspiracy theory Max is...
Yeah, what's happened to me?
He's motoring.
Also, why aren't we wearing glasses inside? That's,
Please don't start arguing with Grok.
I was looking at the aeroplanes in the sky the other day. We're on the relegation fight. Spurs Leeds on Monday night. So obviously we have a pod before then. But you were saying, Mark, when everyone was going, actually Spurs are getting relegated, you were saying it's 50-50. Now it's probably, 40-60?
No, it's much more in Tottenham's favour than that. Tottenham is kind of about 25% now, just in terms of the odds. I've been so impressed with kind of what's happened in the last few weeks, and I'm going to have a bit of a pop at the media in inverted commas. They played well against Brighton, didn't win, and the sort of narrative afterwards that when you're in the bottom three or in that dogfight, you've just got to win. Doesn't matter how you play. So they went to Wolves, didn't play well, won, and the narrative was we're not creating any chances. And you think, well, what have you got to do here? So you put both of them together against Aston Villa, and then people start talking about the integrity and Villa weren't trying. You just think, well, I know everybody wants Tottenham to be relegated, but no, it's been a breath of fresh air, really, De Zerbi, the way he's come in, spoken so positively about the team, the club, the situation, which is, he said losers cry, we can win 5 in a row. And when Igor Tudor walked in, after a week, he said, things are much worse than I thought they were. A week later, he subbing the goalkeeper after 20 minutes. And Thomas Frank in pre-season promised the fans that he would lose matches in one of the most bizarre kind of opening press conferences, and he was good as his word. He lost a lot. So it's just nice to have kind of, I think, everybody pulling in the same direction. I don't think Leeds is an easy game at all. And wouldn't be surprised if Tottenham drop points, but it's back in their own hands, and that's a lot more comfortable position to be in than sort of this time, sort of last week.
Come to Mark's open mic night. I just want to say, this is...
No, absolutely. Yeah. But obviously, Spurs have to go to Chelsea. I know Chelsea are on a 6-game losing run, and they go to Liverpool, Archie, so a 7-game losing run, presumably. But that's just absolutely written for Chelsea to beat Tottenham. But they go to Liverpool. There is there's going to be a protest from a group called Not a Project FC before the FA Cup final. There's going to be a project at the last home game of the season against Spurs, where fans turn their backs in the 22nd minute, which is 2022. The year Bluco bought the club. Yeah, I know what you're going to say, Barry. It's something, isn't it? But
it's not much, is it?
No, I suppose not.
If I've learned anything from German football, you need to be disrupting the game in some way for people to really take notice. Like seeing, it was for a protest of a season or two ago where they flew remote control airplanes onto the pitch at one point, for example, or the tennis balls. But also, I think it's very difficult to have yourself listened to in English football regarding a protest, because of the way that the power is structured.
Sure. Well, we presume Liverpool will probably win this game, and they after that defeat to Manchester United, they do need to. Does Slot need to finish? Everyone now seems to say Slot's going to be there next year, Mark. So if that's the case, maybe he doesn't need to finish strongly.
Yeah, I mean, well, they need to just absolutely kind of make sure that they're in Champions League, and I think finishing as high, if they can finish fourth, is still better than finishing fifth. I mean, I would.
He's 28 till he's 29.
Yeah,
Mark. You're
exactly.
absolutely right, aren't you? Yeah.
I would get rid. I would get rid of Arne Slot if I was. I don't think Liverpool will. I just think I do think he rode that kind of Klopp sort of wave when he first went in, and then the team next season is going to look so different from that Klopp one, and I just don't trust him or see kind of a way where he is like massively successful trying to build his own thing at Liverpool, and wouldn't be amazed if like he left by say Christmas or something like that. He probably does deserve a third season, and this has been a tricky one, but I wouldn't have much faith in him being able to improve them massively next year.
I almost just wanted to prove that I do actually listen to the pod by saying to...
Have you just had a vasectomy? Is that what's happened?
Wow, that really caught me so far off guard.
Thanks, Archie.
No, well, I mean, this point of whether it works for Slot or not, it feels like the deciding point of Barry against Mark. Given that I know that Barry has expressed sympathy for Slot before, but I do. Yeah, it's such a difficult season to really analyse with Liverpool, given everything that has gone on there.
Yeah, of course.
And where to land with it, and yet you feel in today's climate that people want a head to roll. That there needs to be some sort of sacrifice made from this. If I've learned anything from Succession, it was that, well, somebody's got to get fired, but who's it going to be? And whether it's, I mean, Salah going is not someone getting fired, but that is going to be a significant change in terms of the hierarchy of that club, in terms of how that dressing room works. And if I've seen anything from Bayern Munich this season, the fact that Thomas Muller left, it allowed different personalities to speak up and become greater characters in the dressing room. And that's something that is difficult to predict right now. I always find that it's very easy to make conclusions about what next season will look like, given the amount of the body of evidence that we've just had in front of us. But in the end, it can look so very different. I don't think we would have predicted Liverpool becoming title winners under Arne Slot, for example, at the end of that Klopp season. But look where we are. And I mean, to be fair, that still keeps us engaged, right?
Yeah,
I predicted it.
Oh, well done, Barry. Another point for you. God, Mark languishing here now after this. He wasn't even in that contest. Brighton, Wolves, Fulham, Bournemouth, Sunderland, Man United. Sunday sees Burnley, Villa, Palace, Everton, Forest, Newcastle. Any of those catch your eye, Baz?
Well, Sunderland are playing Man U. That could be an odd old game because neither of them really have much to play for. But no team has beaten Sunderland as often in the Premier League, and a lot of teams have beaten Sunderland in the Premier League. No team has beaten them more often than Manchester United, and I suspect that is unlikely. That record, they will just extend it at the weekend.
Yeah, but I mean, Bournemouth, we're talking about that kind of sixth spot potentially getting Champions League. I mean, Bournemouth in the Champions League would be fairly crazy, I think. And it's it obviously it will depend somewhat on what happens this evening at Villa Park. But to even be in that conversation in May, just remarkable given what they lost in the summer. Like the whole defence just departed, and the goalkeeper, and they've got better, which is some.
If Bournemouth did qualify for the Champions League, would the Vitality Stadium be up to standard for the Champions League, or would they have to play somewhere else?
Is that a size thing, or just I don't know. It's a good question. And finally, that was when the pod ended. The silence in its 20th year. Barry ends the pod with a question about the Vitality Stadium that
it's a question I probably should have had the answer, come armed with the answer to, but I just crossed my mind.
You can't do everything. I actually, because Iraola isn't going to Athletic Club, which a lot of people thought he would, Mark. Where's he going to go? I mean, because that's another thing about this summer is there's just so many possible. City job will be up, Chelsea, maybe Liverpool, maybe Newcastle. Like, there's lots of jobs around.
Yeah, I mean, I assumed he was going back to Bilbao. I think most people did. It does make Manchester United slightly more intriguing. Carrick maybe felt a week ago that he was getting it, but there's potential to go there. I wouldn't like to see him at Chelsea because I just think that's the place that you can just cook you as a manager, and like you're almost back to square one. And I think wherever he goes, he might need time. I remember Dominic Solanke speaking about Iraola saying it was so complicated at the start, what he wanted them to do, and they did start very slowly. And you just imagine, like at Chelsea, you're out the door before you've even managed to implement your plan. So, I mean, I sort of feel like Carrick. Just the easy option is to just give him the job. But if they don't, I think him at Manchester United would be it'd be fun to watch.
I heard a clip of an interview with Antoine Semenyo the other day, who was detailing how Bournemouth players don't get any days off, and it was making me think, if Andoni Iraola goes with that to a big club,
Real Madrid, come on, go to Real Madrid.
If you're not giving the players the day off, you're going to have a mutiny. And I do wonder if, because I think the narratives we create in the Premier League is that of this clutch of teams that are behind the top six, that these managers who have done well, like Marco Silva, like Andoni Iraola, like before Thomas Frank, that the next step for them is to go manage a top six club. And I just wonder if it is. If that is going to end up working. I see facets of Marco Silva's management where I think, I tell you what, at Fulham you can get away with that, but a top club that won't go down well, and there'll be far less tolerance for that. Even if I do think like these guys are outstanding at what they do, but the dynamics I don't think are always as we portray them. And I think that actually in the media we're not very good at picking coaches for new clubs. I only have to look at the fact that Vincent Kompany was fifth, sixth choice for Bayern Munich, for example. It's not always the most obvious candidate, I think, that ends up being the best one. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting thing to see what would happen should it be Iraola, but also because of what the Carrick reign has done in terms of if they don't have Carrick at the start of next season, then things go south in the first 5-6 games. Sure. The noise will be, well, what's Michael Carrick doing? We should get him in.
But if they keep Carrick and he has 5 bad games, it's the same thing the other way around. You're eating into your Fuller minute, Archie. So
sorry, Max, did you retire Pep from Man City there, or have I missed some?
Yeah, I just presumed he'd gone, but maybe I did.
Okay,
maybe I did prematurely. Breaking news. I can't believe it. Archie, a Fulham minute.
I didn't feel... I wanted the pod to be harsher on Fulham on Monday. We rolled over and had our tummies tickled at Arsenal. Yeah. The fact that Raul Jimenez was the guy sent into a different postcode by Bukayo Saka, like when defending that, I just how can that be the case when you know what's coming? Arsenal played really well, but I felt like we allowed them to do that. It's difficult to feel too much goodwill towards Fulham right now because, drumroll, season ticket prices have risen again.
Good.
And But the way that the club have done this is that they've spoken to the fans. Hang on a minute. They spoke to the fan advisory board who checks notes. They handpicked the fans for the fan advisory board. But it's okay because those fans can oh, wait, they all have to sign an NDA with the club to be on the fan advisory board. But they did consult with them. And after some hard negotiations, those season ticket prices went back up. I know I am continually beating the same drum. And in the media, it feels like if you're still saying the same point however long it is, it's like, oh, this is boring. You need to make a different point. But we need to change that culture, because if the point is important enough, then you got to keep saying it, regardless of how dull and monotone it sounds. It's like, I hate so much of the
Can I
corporate
have a
elements
Harry
of football.
Kane minute?
Listen, I'm looking around. I for one have never repeated a story. So, I'm sorry, Archie. That is shit, isn't it? And as you said about Chelsea, like, what power do you have? Anyway, that'll do for part 2. In part 3, we'll talk about the playoffs. Here is a bit where I encourage you to listen to other Guardian podcasts. Listen to all of them, please. There is a new video podcast our New York office is launching. It's called Stateside with Kai and Carter.
I'm Kai Wright.
I'm Carter Sherman.
And we are here to tell you about our new show, which is rooted in this feeling that at least I have, I know you have, where, it's kind of like when you wake up in the morning and you pick up your phone and you're just hit in the face with a fire hose of news, right? Like,
there's war, there's authoritarianism, our planet is burning. I could go on and on and on.
On and on and on. But we're trying to figure out how to manage it, right? Like, how do you manage it?
I manage it by leaning in and trying to learn more and trying to figure out, okay, how can I be smarter about this particular topic? And who can I talk to that's going to make me feel better about it?
And who can tell me who's responsible for the mess that I'm reading about? So that's our mission. That's the show.
Welcome to Stateside with Kai and Carter. We're a new show from The Guardian.
We're talking to big thinkers and the best journalists, just trying to understand the world through smart conversation and honest reporting.
We don't have billionaires telling us what to say.
Stateside with Kai and Carter will come out 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, starting May 13th.
Follow on Apple Podcasts or catch us wherever you watch or listen.
Welcome to part 3 of the Guardian Football Weekly. So it's the playoffs. In the Championship, it's quite an interesting stat. In the last 20 years, I think it is, the team that's finished third has gone up 9 times, fourth 6 times, fifth 4 times, sixth just twice. Because in my mind, Mark, it's the team with momentum that squeeze into sixth that always do it, but that isn't true.
No, and like a lot of football stats, it's one of them, what you only remember it when it happens, and then you feel like it's sort of more frequent. But it makes sense because the team in sixth has got the hardest game in the semi-final against the team that finishes third, first of all. And, they've been the worst team in the league out of them 4 more often than not as well. Like, Hull come into that in that 6th position and would definitely be the weakest team in the Championship playoffs. Now, as you said, there's a couple of times that they can win, but I think Millwall will fancy their chances of getting to Wembley and winning that 2-legged tie. Alex Neil's side, they play up to the Millwall stereotype at parts. Like, Jake Cooper at the back just heads everything. He just comes into the box and he just heads it away, and he sort of does slide tackle headers and stuff like that. He just like a man mounting. But they actually, they have got creative players going forward, and I think that if they do get to the final, be a tougher game, obviously, harder to call that Middlesbrough-Southampton sort of tie. I'd probably edge towards Southampton, but yeah, I can see sort of a Southampton-Millwall final, and I wouldn't rule Millwall out, although I think Southampton are probably the team that everybody fancies, given the way they finished the season and won the won the FA Cup tie against Arsenal, got to the semis. So I can see a Southampton-Millwall final.
Just in terms of momentum, Sunderland lost 5 games in a row going into last season's playoffs.
Is that right?
But they were able to. They were kind of having a little mini break on the beach because they'd cemented their place in the playoffs with 7 or 8 games to go. So, but yeah, they lost 5 in a row before their playoff semi-final against Coventry.
League One playoffs are on Saturday. Stevenage, Stockport, and Bolton, Bradford. Stevenage, who sneaked in with that, did it cross the line at the expense of Luton. You said you had this all covered, Mark. So this is tricky to call, I think. You imagine Stockport will get past Stevenage. The other one, I have no idea.
Yeah, so Stockport they've had quite a few injuries. That's been the problem for them. Kyle Wootton, the centre forward's been playing centre back, and has been converted by Dave Challoner. So not an ideal situation, but like when they signed Louis Barry on loan, they already knew that the top 2 was basically done at that point, and he wasn't even fit when they brought him in. I think they brought him in effectively to try to win the playoffs, and so that gamble kind of starts here. I think you're right. I think they will beat Stockport. Like Bradford, I was speaking to a Bradford fan, said the reason their home form's been so good is the pitch is not amazing, and some teams struggle, and Bolton would be sort of more of a footballing side. But if you sort of follow the stats and expected goals, like Bolton would be the sort of the best team out of those four, and would expect to go up. But I think Stockport got the easier semi-final, and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe if they can get a few players back, maybe they might be able to shock Bolton maybe in the final.
Sunday, League Two, Grimsby, Salford and Chesterfield, Notts County. And actually Grimsby, bottom of all these sides, but they really do have the momentum, Mark, and I watched them win at the Abbey, and Salford missed out not getting an absolute stonewall penalty and missing an open goal from about a yard, which helped us go up. But I think Grimsby might do that, actually.
Yeah, Salford, like their goal difference, like not great for a team that finished fourth and nearly got automatic. Obviously, the most famous club of that quartet, given kind of the ownership of them. I've watched quite a lot of Salford this season.
Fabio Barini up front for them, isn't he?
Yeah, he doesn't always play though, and when he does play, it's kind of in a sort of deeper position. But I agree with you. I think Grimsby might be able to shock Salford in that one. Like Notts County against Chesterfield, one that like just can go either way type things. Are probably edged towards Notts County, who I think there's definitely been times this season when Notts County have felt like they're one of the best three teams in that league and should have got automatic, and they just, when others kicked on like Cambridge, that they weren't able to quite match it. So maybe it'll be a Grimsby versus Notts final, and I think Grimsby might do it.
Gianni Infantino has defended World Cup ticket prices. Good old Gianni. Insisting that football's global governing body was obliged to take advantage of US laws that allow tickets to be resold for thousands of dollars above face value. FIFA's World Cup resale website last week advertised 4 tickets to the final at a cost of $2.3 million each. FIFA does not control the asking price, but it takes a 15% purchase fee from the buyer of each ticket and a 15% resale fee from the seller. That means FIFA would make $690,000 if someone is stupid enough to spend $2.3 billion on a ticket for the final. Speaking at the Milken Institute Global Conference in Beverly Hills, Infantino said, if some people put on the resale market some tickets for the final at $2 million, number one, it doesn't mean tickets cost $2 million. And number two, it doesn't mean that somebody will buy these tickets. And if somebody buys a ticket for the final for $2 million, I will personally bring him a hot dog and a Coke to make sure he has a great experience. Producer Tyre writes, I'd pay $3 million to have Gianni not come and give me a hot dog. He said FIFA received in excess of 500 million ticket requests for 2026, compared with fewer than 50 million combined for the 2018 and 2022 World Cups. Added that 25% of tickets for the group phase were priced at under $300. You cannot go to watch in the US a college game, not even speaking about a top professional game at a certain level, for less than $300. And this is the World Cup. On Wednesday morning, tickets were available for the next home game for the New York Yankees for as little as $11. Other tickets for more prestigious events, often well below $300. Playoff seats for the reigning NBA champion Oklahoma City Thunder's current series against LeBron James's LA Lakers, available for $158. Tickets for Ohio State Miami in last season's Cotton Bowl started at $32. Anyway, all going well, and I don't know if anyone else
somewhere. I think it might be in the Athletic saying that in host cities, the take up for hotel rooms is nowhere near what was expected. So that suggests that all may not be well.
I once hosted a quiz on BT Sport. It didn't last, and it was one where they sort of had to ship in an audience. And, at one point we had to stop, and he'd film like 5 episodes in a day. And at one point we had to stop filming because some old lady had just fallen asleep and was snoring incredibly loudly. That'll happen for some of the group games, just to bust people in to watch these football matches to make it look full. I don't know if anyone else has seen this. I did put it in the group, but I think before you and Mark were in it. You and actually, you two were in it. Some journalist, in inverted commas, has written a book for Gianni, like the 10 moments to celebrate Gianni's 10 years in power at FIFA. Like, it's every bit as good as Grisham, a real page turner, as you can imagine. You wanted Archie to give a shout out to Schalke and Miran Muslic?
Yeah, Schalke are back in the Bundesliga, which German football, I think, really needs. They are one of the biggest clubs in the country, and Miran Muslic deserves great credit because even though Schalke, the name and the club, the stature is big, they were not amongst anybody's favourites to get promoted at the start of this season. He really caught my eye just as a different character as well. He gave this interview to German football magazine El Freunde where he's talking about his past as a refugee and moving from Bosnia when he was 9 to Austria. And this came in the context of when he was asked, how does he work with the players? Is it stick and carrot? And he goes, no, that sounds too much like we're talking about US foreign policy under Condoleezza Rice. And I was like, right. You're not speaking like every football manager there, but then again, because of his past, he's not. And it should be said, key reason for them going up as well is that fellow Bosnian and legend of the game in Bosnia, Edin Dzeko, gave him a ring over Christmas and was like, I quite fancy coming and playing for Schalke. Could we make that happen? And Miran Muslic, who kind of was a fan of Edin Dzeko, was like, sure. Yeah, we can do that.
That's great.
Absolutely. And Edin Dzeko has been a real hit there. And that he's really helped, energize the place as well. And it is really no mean feat to get these big traditional clubs moving again in the same in a good direction. And yeah, great credit to Miran Muslic because understandably, Plymouth were not too happy that he was leaving in the summer. But at the same time, Schalke is just a completely different stratosphere of club to Plymouth.
Jack says, hi, Guardian Football Weekly. Just thought you'd like another weekly update on Roy Hodgson and his whereabouts. There's a man who plays chess on the High Street in Bath City Centre. And look who recently turned up for a game. Not sure if he managed to get the checkmate, but Roy is ticking off more side quests in the West Country, I see. Yes, the travelling chess man on Instagram, sitting there very happy alongside Roy Hodgson. Although it looks like the game hasn't started, so we do not know if they played or not, or if the game is still going. But if you're wandering through Bath City Centre right now, and you let us know if Roy is or isn't there. Thanks. That'll do for today.